Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Balance Sheet. My name is Billy. This is my co-host Raj. We appreciate you guys joining us once again for a week in women's wrestling. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, and we appreciate you guys continuing to come back. Lots to cover this week. Mercedes and Toni, if we're being really honest, the build is actually going very, very well. We got 2 weeks left until All In, so we're going to talk about that. Next week, we have Mercedes wrestling once again, as she'll be defending her TBS title in her 1000th career match. So we've got some thoughts on that. And then WWE Night of Champions was last night. You can see it over my co-host shoulder here. We had two matches on that show, and really two matches on, I guess we can call it a pay-per-view extension of SmackDown. That was also in Saudi Arabia. Two women's matches that we'll cover as well. So lots to talk about. I think we absolutely, though, need to start on Mercedes and Toni, and what is building up to be a very one of the biggest women's matches ever at All In.
Yeah, so this past week we had a couple of different things that happened. So let's start with Dynamite. The as they call it, the opening of the show. You had Toni Storm walking to the ring, or I guess walking in the arena with Luther, and it was just out of nowhere. Mercedes, blasts Luther, blasts Toni, beating her up, then looked at the camera and said, "Welcome to Dynamite," which was great.
Awesome moment.
Loved,
Yeah.
loved that. They went into the crowd now. I believe this was in Kent, Washington, and she proceeded to beat the crap out of Toni. A lady comes with the microphone because Mercedes is calling for the microphone. She beats that lady up, which I thought was awesome too. Picked up the microphone, basically said, "Okay, you want to get down to business. You want to go, darling. Let's go. Let's get going here. This is game time." Proceeded to beat her up some more, and really, to me, set the stage for what this match needs to be, which is you have the ultimate bad girl, the person who hasn't lost in a long time, who has all these titles, going against the darling of maybe women's wrestling at this point in Toni Storm. Maybe in all of women's wrestling, nobody has a higher approval rating than Toni Storm. Maybe Io, maybe Stephanie Vicor, but I don't think you can make the case that anybody has a higher approval rating than Toni Storm, because she's just so over with every crowd. She doesn't get booed
Within her promotion, for sure.
within her promotion. I just think that she's like a universally loved character. Yep. And so Mercedes is setting, the stage of the big bad wolf against, Red Riding Hood. Like, that's really what this is coming down to. They are playing this like Toni is the underdog, but she's not the underdog, because Toni's like, to beat me, you're gonna have to kill me, and I've already shed a lot of blood. And I feel like Mercedes is looking at this from, okay, I just can't go into the ring and try to beat her like I beat every other opponent. I have to get in her head. I have to do other things. And I think they're setting the dynamic for a really all-time great match. But I think the build up to the match, other than anything Mercedes has ever done with Bayley, has been the best of her career for sure. And I don't know if I can say I'm as invested. Okay, so I'm invested in this because Mercedes is part of the feud. But the stuff that Toni and Mariah did leading up was on another level. But I believe they're getting there. Like, they are slowly getting there, where by the time we get to All In 2 weeks, I'm going to be like, okay, I got to see this match. Like, I just got to see this match. The other thing that I really enjoyed was their promos on Collision. Yeah. I thought both promos were A+. I know, Mercedes was swearing 3 times. She said the F word 3 times, but she was saying it within context of the feud. So it wasn't like she was just gratuitously swearing to swear. She was making a point.
Based on
Yeah,
Toni's promo, from 2 weeks back.
she was making a point in the promo. And I really thought that, if I'm being honest here, I don't know if Mercedes has cut a better series of promos back to back to back in her career. I thought a couple of the stuff she did with Becky was really, really good. She did some really good stuff with Bailey, but
Bianca in the summer. Yeah.
I have really enjoyed all of this feud except for her sitting at the table eating. I don't really care for that stuff, but everything else has been top tier. Mercedes is definitely bringing her A game on the microphone to compete with Toni Storm, who is always on her A game. This match is as big a deal as they've ever had for a women's match in this company. They are treating it that way. I think it's evident now this match will not main event. And the only reason I say that it won't main event is I think there's a strong possibility that Mercedes is going to win. And AEW is not WWE. They do not like to end, like, other than Moxley, who continuously wins, it doesn't seem like they want to end with heels winning. Yeah. And I'm just excited for this match. And, I don't care if it goes on first. I don't care if it goes on fifth. I don't care if it goes on last. It is the most I am looking forward to a match this year, other than the Mania triple threat. And that was simply because I was so happy to see Io versus Bianca and Rhea on the big WrestleMania stage. But for AEW, I can't think of a women's match I care for more than this one, other than maybe Mercedes versus Willow the first time, because I wanted to see how Mercedes would look in a year and a couple of months. Yeah. So yeah, I loved everything about this.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo some of your sentiments. Hindsight being what it is, the stake thing is frustrating as it was at the time. They're trying to accelerate this feud within the closer window, so they were really buying time with those segments. I still didn't love them. I'm not saying they were great, but the frustration at the time was, is this feud not going to get some of the storytelling that it needs? Now, to be fair, I still would have loved a lot more than 90 seconds on Dynamite. And frankly, those promos on Collision could have been on Dynamite. That being said, I thought the Mercedes promo on Collision is as dialed in as we've seen her. It's not the Mariah Toni match, but it's a different dynamic, right? You have the teacher and the student dynamic, which can really get to like a bad blood personal level. This is more on like the two greats against each other, and their first match is just not going to have that story behind it because they haven't been around each other as much. I'm really thinking long term at this point. The news broke that Tony Khan has had this match planned for almost a year for All In. And I think Tony has been doing excellent work. But if that's true, and there's no reason not to believe that it is, we are now on year 3 of Tony Khan planning the women's division around Timeless Toni, where even when she loses the belt, the next point of All In is for her to be involved, right? This is the 3rd straight. So I know people would say, well, Mercedes has been undefeated for a year and all that, but not around the main title. I'm not going to sit here and say that if Mercedes wins, I have an elegant way to get the TBS belt off of her. I actually don't. I don't know how they're going to figure that out. But I do think that it is time for Mercedes to be the main champion for the main belt to progress the division forward. I'm actually very excited to fantasy book who's going to topple Mercedes, and I can't find a passion about Toni being the one to do it because, again, she's run the division for a long time before Mercedes got there. I think you've said this for weeks. If Toni wins, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? Like she's just you just retire, and you know what I mean? Like that's a joke, but
No,
she's
I
done
agree.
everything if she wins this match. Now, if they've got some good plans for I don't know. I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the way the women have leveled up against each other. I don't think it's going to main event, which is a bummer. I will say it was probably a stretch. I still think it should main event, but we still haven't gotten a women's main event, period, let alone the biggest show. So it's like, is there a rematch at All Out where it main events? You know, I don't know. I will say that Toni has to figure out a way that while Mercedes Moné is under contract, and I think that that could be for a very long time. If she can't main event in this company, you're telling women's free agents that they'll never main event. You know, the Toni Mariah thing should have main evented. I get why it didn't, because it was clear to him based on conversations they were having that she was leaving. So I get that. Toni Storm way deserves a pay-per-view main event for the work she's done over the last 3 years. And when you sign Mercedes Moné, before a minute of story is told, you should know she should be main eventing some of your shows. So he's got to figure this out. And if it doesn't get figured out at All In, we will continue to put the pressure. I'm relenting only because I'm compelled about what Hangman's doing. I really am. And we talk on this show a lot about AEW men's stuff doesn't compel us too much. So I get it, but Toni and Mercedes deserve a main event against each other separately. They are main event wrestlers, and this needs to get figured out in AEW. That being said, the build has been fantastic because the women have absolutely elevated their time. They made the most out of 90 seconds on Wednesday. Both of their promos, if you add it up, it was plus the package was 4 minutes of TV time on Collision. So I'm not going to give anyone credit except for Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. But the build has been fantastic because of them.
So you have a lot of different paths I'm going to take. So let's start with Tony Khan saying, well, he has known this is going to be the main event for a year. So what he's essentially saying is Mariah May told him early she's not re-signing.
Yep.
Because if that's the case, then they had to have, when they did the press conference where it was Mercedes, Athena, and everybody thought that was going to be the all-in match, he must have known then that Mariah May was not re-signing. And honestly, Blake Monroe now, listening to her blog, which I would have loved to spend some time about that blog because I had lots of issues with how what she said. And I'm a huge fan of hers. But I believe that listening to her talk and looking at the smile on her face, AEW was a stop in the road for her. And that maybe early in her contract, like she signed a 2-year deal. So maybe 6 months in, she was like, yeah, I'll give you everything I have for 2 years, Tony, but I'm gone.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then he had to have pivoted to this match at some point, because I always thought the grand, what do they call it? The Hollywood ending, the grand finale, whatever. What is that show?
Hollywood ending. Yeah.
I thought that was going to happen at All In. From watching the feud, because remember, it started at All In, right? Toni losing the title at All In. I thought Toni was going to end the feud at the All In, because all of this happened within a year, right? Like it's only been a year, right? Like the Britt Baker Mercedes match happened at All In.
Yeah.
So I really thought it was going to be like the Cena Rock, you know, Mariah wins the first one, Toni wins the finale kind of thing. But okay, Mariah told him, "Hey, I'm leaving," so he had to pivot, and he's pivoted to the right card. So let's go to the part you're saying about, hey, these two women should absolutely main event. They're main event players, all that stuff. Okay, so obviously I'm going to agree with you simply because I have advocated for the match to main event from the time I kind of figured this was the direction
Yep.
watching the Owen Hart tournament. But I am going to come at this from a different perspective. You are not as emotionally attached to Okada Omega as a group of us wrestling fans are 2017, 2018, where those two men pretty much carried the sport.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to ask this question. Is how can you justify Mercedes and Toni main eventing if Okada and Omega go out there and have the match they're capable of having, which for that audience might be the greatest thing they've ever seen based on their history? Would you not be setting the women up for failure if they cannot follow that match? I'm just being devil's advocate here.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and it does go to the dynamic of the AEW crowd, right? The AEW crowd, that is their holy grail. The question is, and I don't, Toni is a numbers guy. They're going to have 20,000 people, 25,000 people, could be 30,000 people in the crowd by the time that this event starts. How many of you are in the crowd, and how? Well, not even you. You are an NJPW Japanese wrestling fan, so you predate AEW with the Okada Omega thing. Okada and Omega, though, not only do they resonate for fans like you, but it's the type of wrestling that AEW, people who are there because of the Young Bucks and Hangman, and Omega, but day one people, whether they saw those matches or not, it's the type of match that resonates with that group. How many of you are in that crowd, and how many of me are in that crowd? And I know that this is going to sound blasphemous, but I didn't watch either of those matches live, and I don't think about that match. I don't, it doesn't cross my mind ever. I'm obviously going to watch it. I've seen the matches, but it's not my type of wrestling. I will enjoy the Mercedes Toni match. If we get the match they're capable of, I will enjoy it immensely more than I'm going to enjoy Okada Omega. But again, I also think like MJF Ospreay, that hour-long match that they did in Dynamite, all I was doing watching that match was going, the longer this goes, the more likely it is that Mercedes, because she had a match that night, I forget which one it was, is going to get an 8-minute match. And I'm sick of this. But the crowd ate it up, right? So it's a different fan base. But I thought that was gratuitously leaning bad, right? So the funny thing about Omega Okada, you said if they put their best match out there. What they are going to try to do is on a razor's edge of gratuitously long and bad if it doesn't land. Those type of matches in America are, because an American crowd is not as patient to the story as the Japanese crowd is. So I would argue that if it goes on last at All In after 7 hours and they plan on doing a 60-minute match, minutes 40 through 60 could be rough. It won't be a run-in fest. Great. I don't prefer a run-in fest. But you get to minute 40 and it's that deep into the show, I would actually almost argue they have to watch that they don't go too long. Because, again, the question is, of the 30,000 people there, how many of me are in the crowd that are going to be like, geez, get it over with, dude? Like,
look, I am a person who has watched every single Okada Omega match multiple times. They have averaged. They have had 4 matches, to my knowledge, and they have averaged about 42 minutes.
Yeah,
average. They've had 2 matches that
went a long match.
No, that's what I'm saying. Average. They have had 2 matches that went an hour.
Yep.
Okay. Here is the question that Tony Khan has to ask himself. This is not a question for you and I. We don't own the company, But if we did, I think we would have the same answer. Toni, do you want to lean into what you already have? Omega Okada basically is if you were to tell me, where did Tony Khan get the real impetus for starting his own wrestling company? I felt like those matches were it, where he looked at them and he said, WWE isn't doing this. There's a market for this. Look at how many Americans are ordering the subs. Look at how many Americans are bootlegging these matches. There is a appetite for this type of wrestling in America.
Yeah.
So his AEW is basically built off of the backs of those series of matches. So he already has that crowd. He has the hardcore NJPW, I don't want to say GCW, but NJPW. Chrissy would know the name. I was talking to Chrissy, our friend who's been on the show before, that I want to go to this promotion. It's in California. Kevin Owens has wrestled there. It'll come to me. Okay, it'll come to me. But it's like a hardcore indie promotion where the Young Bucks got famous. And my point is, AEW already has this crowd. Like, they have it lock, stock, and barrel. It is the anti-WWE crowd. Although it's interesting is recently AEW has, people don't want to hear this, copied WWE in their cinema matches, because every single Moxley match looks like a Roman Reigns match.
It does.
Right? It does, right? So,
and I got a point on that as far as the main event goes, but go ahead.
But my point here is, so if I'm Tony Khan, I'm looking at the data on television, on Max, every single Toni Storm Mercedes segment gains. Every single Toni Storm and Mercedes segment seems to have more traction on TikTok, on YouTube, on X than anything Okada Omega do, anything Moxley and Page do, anything the Bucks and Swerve and Ospreay do, right? Like, they might not be in that crowd, the hot ticket item, other than in El Paso, where we legitimately were in that crowd and we walked away, and we're not biased here. They were as over as anybody on that show in El Paso. And they main event.
Oh, yeah.
But the subsequent shows after that, even though they have both been very over, it has felt like, if you just watch the show, they are presented not to be as over as the other stuff, right?
Right.
It all depends on what Tony is going for here.
And they've done almost nothing they've done nothing in the ring together since then. I mean, in Mexico they did only.
Is Tony Khan's point, I want to grow my audience. I want to lean in to get more new viewers, or do I want to make my hardcore fans that have gotten me a $240 million TV deal, who are about to get me the largest non-WWE North American gate of all time at $2.5 million, which is about $115 an average ticket sold? Am I going to honor them and give them the dream match that us hardcore wrestling fans in 2017 were like, oh my God, why can't WWE do Okada Omega, and then finally give it to them for thanking them for all of their support? That's his decision to make. If I were in his shoes, I'm going to take the risk of main eventing. Look, nothing is perfect, right? You can main event women and it could fall right on its face. Shayna Baszler, Elimination Chamber, Shayna, Becky, Bayley, Survivor Series. Both times, those two women's main events, if we're being brutally honest, did not age well. They were not good. But you could also be WWE and take the risk of Bianca, Sasha Banks, and win an ESPY and get mainstream coverage and have somebody like maybe the biggest podcaster, at least in the sports landscape of all time, and Bill Simmons, watch it in real time and say, that's the best women's match I've ever seen. So it all depends on the risk and reward you're trying to take. If I'm Tony Khan, I take the risk. Here's why. I have to dent. Right now, if we're being honest here, WWE is a little bit vulnerable. Now,
pissing off customers left and right.
you're not seeing it in the amount of merchandise they sell, in the amount of ticket sales they're selling, because they still have a John Cena nostalgia tour. They have Punk. They have a lot of top. They have Rhea Ripley. They have a lot, Stephanie McCoy. They have a lot of people, EO, who people want to pay to see. But how those people are being used, you're already seeing people start to be upset about. I just wanted a CM Punk Cena match one last time, and you're sending Seth Rollins' whole goofy camp out. People are mad. So Tony Khan has an opportunity to do something different. And if he did, he could endear himself to a new audience. Our dear friend who listens every week, Chen, she has readily said that, hey, I want to be able to support AEW consistently, but I don't see them putting the time and effort with the women. And all I really care about is the women. So he has an opportunity to do that. It's up to him to want to do it. But if he comes across to me like, I am a fan booking and I want to see Omega Okada main event, because I, in 2017, was like Raja, who was glued to my screen at midnight, because I didn't even go to work the next day, because I'm like, I got to see Okada Omega. He seems like that to me. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's good. So I actually think that the main event hinges on what they're planning to do with the men's belt. And devil's advocate to everything we've talked about, I would put, if Okada and Omega is going to be 40 minutes or more, and history tells you it will be, I would put it in the middle-ish of the show. I would almost tent pole it in the middle of the show. I would put a cool down match in front of it. I'd put a cool down match after it. And I would put it in the middle of the show as like a marquee, like Okada Omega. And I think everything hinges on the men's match, and hear me out. If Hangman loses, forget the fact that Mercedes is a heel. Her winning is not Moxley winning. If Hangman loses, there is going to be a wretched amount of piss and vinegar in the crowd for an amount of time after that match. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It'll be like Sasha Banks losing to Charlotte Flair at Hell in a Cell. So the way that I would book this, if Hangman's winning, then hold on, I got this backwards. Yeah, if Hangman's winning, I actually think you can open the show with Hangman winning. And I close the show with Mercedes winning. And I have Okada Omega in the middle. And I think that that's a coherent show. Basically, you open up with Hangman winning and put everyone on like a sugar high for like, you know what I mean? That carries you through a lot of the night. Flip side, as unpopular as it is, if Mercedes is winning or Tony's winning, and if Moxley is winning and they're not pulling the trigger, I open with Tony and Mercedes, and you have to close the show with Moxley winning, because you will not get the crowd invested in anything after that. It will be a deflation at the end, but he's already pulled that card several times, and people will be pissed on the internet after the show. But if Moxley's winning, you're not getting that crowd back the rest of the show. So I would actually be, if I'm a Hangman fan in that main event, I'm actually more worried he loses if it's in the main event than anything. You're not getting the crowd back. You're just not. It's going to be rough. So it has to main event and end with and then maybe you bring Darby back in that moment, and then you end on that high, which is a WWE thing to do, by the way. But
Okada,
I think a lot hinges on that Hangman Moxley match and what's happening.
Okada Omega have had 4 matches. If you include 2 out of 3 falls, they average star rating 6.25. That's their average, right? And by the way, on Cage Match, which you're really into, they average a 9.7 match rating. So look, I know, like, and you're honest about it. Hey, I wasn't at my computer or my tablet January 2017 waiting for Omega and Okada to wrestle. By the way, the woman we're talking about here in Mercedes Moné was, because she very famously in 2017 posted a picture of the match starting and saying, "I love professional wrestling." So she might be a bigger fan of the match than we realize. Like maybe she wants to see it last. Like, hey, I want to get my match over with and I want to watch this as a fan. But for somebody like you who was not invested in it, you know, it's a match, right? It's a match that doesn't hold the nostalgic value to you. And honestly, the style of match it is, knowing the taste that you have, I don't know if you would like it, quite honestly. I think you appreciate it, but an hour match is a long time. Like, think about it. Like, if somebody says we're going to start the clock at 12 and end at 1, and you're just going to watch two people wrestle, that's a long match.
Yeah.
They've done it twice.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, let me ask you this. Are you saying that Hangman has to be the main event if it isn't Mercedes? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the only so you if Mercedes is winning and Hangman's winning, you could main event Okada Omega and let Hangman be an injection of adrenaline in the middle of the show somewhere. Okay. I would also argue though that the way Toni sees the top men's belt, it's either opening the show or closing the show. I'm saying I'm not advocating, like, it's a triple main event for a reason. There's a good argument for all of them. I'm saying if Hangman's losing, it cannot go anywhere on the card except for last. Because you don't want dejection running through your crowd for long stretches. It will take a lot to get that crowd back and reinvested.
Yeah.
If Hangman's winning, you have options. You could open with it. I don't think Toni would do this, but you could put it in the middle of the show and kind of inject some excitement into the middle of a long show.
Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston.
Right. Mercedes winning could open the show. It could close the show, in my opinion. I don't think it matters that she's a heel. I think.
Are you sure? Are you sure that Mercedes main eventing as a heel, beating the most beloved women character that company has ever had to an audience that is already not necessarily, like, they look at her still in some way as a WWE product, wouldn't send the crowd home on such a low?
So I will give my argument for that, and then we should talk Mina Mercedes. My argument for that is simply this. You're so close to pissing everyone off in a kayfabe enough manner. Like, go back and watch how WWE let Roman Reigns become what he became. I mean, this guy pinned Drew McIntyre over and over again. Cheated to do it, never apologized for it. Pinned Kevin Owens over and over again. Pinned his cousins. Pinned Daniel Bryan and Edge on top of each other. Pinned. Ended the show. Pinned, middle finger. Pinned, middle finger.
Yep.
And it turned into the biggest draw they've had. It resurrected the company as to a level that they had never been money-wise before. So, yeah, I actually say that if Toni had the balls to do it, he should close with Mercedes winning, and it should, the point would be to get everyone so amped up about seeing her lose. So, yeah, I would actually do it as a function of their life is going to be like for however long this run goes, because that's exactly what worked in WWE. And I'm not trying to copy WWE. It's a point of saying it's not even WWE who did it. It's the Ric Flair model. It's the, God, I just want to see this person lose. It's the Floyd Mayweather model. Okay. No one liked Floyd Mayweather. I love boxing. I spent thousands of dollars on pay-per-views when I did not have thousands of dollars. I paid for every one of them. I paid for Floyd Mayweather pay-per-views to watch him lose. I never liked the guy. I was a Roy Jones guy. I was a Manny Pacquiao guy. I even had moments I liked Oscar De La Hoya when he was younger. I liked Floyd as an Olympic boxer, and then the Diego Corrales fight, I still loved Floyd, and then stuff came out about him and domestic violence after the Diego Corrales fight, and from then on, I did not like the man,
Mhm.
and I still paid to watch his fights because I
Mhm.
wanted to see someone beat him up, and it never happened.
It never happened.
It never
So
happened.
okay, so the Roman Reigns model, which we've long advocated that whether you love it or you hate it, it worked,
It
right?
worked.
It worked, right? Because Roman Reigns became one of the five biggest draws ever in WWE. If you look at just monetary, you could make a case he's number one because he's drawn more money because of the times and the economics than Austin from a TV perspective. But okay, I'm gonna try to. This is gonna sound like a backhanded compliment, but it really isn't. Mercedes has done a really good job of trying not to be cool. She's done a really good job of trying to be a heel, like a bad person. You don't like me.
Right.
I'm mean, whatever. Roman Reigns, I always felt like in his bloodline era aura, he was cool. So it was so obvious to me that this guy would instantly become the biggest babyface because the way they're setting it up, by the time they got to the Cody match, he was half the crowd was him, right? Like he was
Right.
a 50-50 split. To Mercedes' credit, she's not trying to steal the thunder of the baby faces. She's not trying to be, I have aura and I'm
Right.
cool. She's a heel. So to do the Roman Reigns model, then what you're saying is that Mercedes can end up being the biggest babyface the company has. I'm going to be honest here. I don't see that path for her in this company. Now, I could be totally wrong. And if I am, I apologize because I have always thought that at her core as a professional wrestler, she's as good at getting anybody to evoke emotion about her as a babyface because she's such a great seller. But in this company with this fan base, I don't see a path for them to put their arms around her and be like, okay, you're our hero now. Like,
Yeah.
unless she saves Willow from like a stabbing or something, I don't know. So if you main event with Mercedes, you have to go at it with she's the biggest jerk, and it's the Floyd Mayweather model because Floyd Mayweather to the end of his career never became a babyface as a boxer. He was a
Yeah.
heel from Corrales to the end. He was a heel, right? And a lot
Yeah.
of heel stuff was he wore sombreros against Mexican fighters, and he did those things, but
To needle people,
to needle people.
but
But
also was a bad dude. So
he's look, I do not judge, I don't know him, but if you spend time in prison for domestic violence, I cannot sit there and say you're a good guy. And I don't think
yeah.
I don't think anybody would say he's a good guy. He's a great boxer and he knew how to draw money. And Mercedes is a great professional wrestler, and I think she can draw real money here. If she wins as a heel, they have to have a plan for the babyface to knock her off. You've always said it's Willow, but yeah.
I think it's more about, so Roman did make Cody as a babyface, or cemented it, but
Yep.
I think it would be more about her making a star, someone else, the top babyface in the company than herself. I still think she'd have a babyface run from it. Um, I will say, and I don't think we can answer this on the show this week. I feel like that, without stealing any of Tony's thunder, I do feel like that collision promo is something that this crowd would find cool and badass.
The F word one.
With the belt sitting around, that was an aura. Like that was like, okay, she's freaking awesome. Like I know I'm a fan, maybe I'm biased, but I would think even AEW fans would be like, all right, that was
And
pretty cool.
it's interesting. I went on X because I didn't see it live. So I saw everybody, like I got somebody messaged me that the promo was amazing. And I was like, okay, I'm excited to watch it. And I went on X and I looked at it, and it was like they have not wrapped their arms around her. The hardcore AEW fans. We're not hardcore AEW fans. We're Mercedes fans, and we watch AEW a lot because of her, and we've caught on to the other people on the show. But I don't see them wrapping their arms around her the way WWE fans wrap their arms around Roman Reigns. Like I don't see it, and it's because a
Around
lot,
Cody.
huh? Or yeah, Cody or
Cody.
Rhea
I mean, Cody came from
Io,
AEW, and
or I don't know. Like it's like, to me, she has carried the AEW flag from day one. She has praised her boss. She has praised the company. She has said it has made her found her passion for wrestling. She has given it.
she
She has
retweets every match that they're
effusive
having in the
praise,
women's division.
effusive praise for AEW. She has talked about all elite women. When Toni Storm turned back into Timeless from Rocker, her tweet 2 seconds later was, heart emoji Timeless. She has absolutely put the company's flag on her forehead and like, hey, I'm AEW. I don't want to talk about WWE. That was a chapter I'm done with. This is the here and the now. And I have been surprised at how many hardcore AEW fans have well, when she loses, she's going to go back to WWE and she's not going to put anybody over. And she wants to go back because of that one interview that she did where she says, yeah, everybody knows I'm going to go back one day, right? Like, I looked at that as tongue in
I might be
cheek.
45 when I go back.
Yeah,
That's the
like,
way I
I
looked
mean,
at it. Yeah.
she could go back and go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if AEW fans showed me that there's a path to get her to the Roman Reigns level where she loses, like when she eventually loses, she goes away for a while. And when she comes back, like when Roman Reigns came back at SummerSlam and gets that pop, I'd be like, yeah, let's go for this. And I still think they should go for it from a Floyd Mayweather perspective, not from a Roman Reigns perspective. Like, to me, I would go at this from we're going to get her to be such a bad girl that when she loses, people are going to have celebration videos and praise whatever that she loses the belt, and just deal with what happens after. But
I
why
think
can't she be MJF? Like,
yeah. I think when she resigns, which I think she's gonna, hopefully that will break some of the dam there on them kind of holding out on her. I don't know. I have this booking idea in my mind where she wins the title, goes on a bit of a run, eventually loses to Willow because Willow beat her, got a visual pin on her, and only lost to her because of Chris, which started this whole thing. And that could be Willow's story, is like, man, if I would have beat you like I should have, like I did basically at Double or Nothing, we wouldn't have been subjected to any of this BS. And then after she loses to Willow, I book a get healthy match for her where it's like, oh, Mercedes is gonna jump right back into the number one contender against someone like a Megan Bain, and I put it in like a main event of Dynamite, and I have Megan do like a Nia Jax Shayna number on her and just basically beat her ass, not a squash, but just really beat her up in a way that the crowd there is going to start to feel like uncomfortable, which Mercedes is the best at, and then have her lose. And then have her be gone for like a month or two, but basically have it be where, hey, I lost, but I'm going to jump right back in the saddle, and then she doesn't, and she sells her ass off just trying to win that match. And I think that's how she becomes a babyface in AEW. But we got a lot to do before all that happens.
yeah, and I think the crowd has to show me that they're part of it. And it's interesting, right? Like, we're coming up basically on 1 year of us doing this show, and next week or this Wednesday is Mercedes Moné, who is mostly responsible for us starting this podcast. She's somebody we both are big fans of, revered her work, and always felt like women's wrestling didn't get the platform from a podcast perspective that it needed, where it's positive and it talks about the women in the ring and the work they do, and not for other reasons. So it's funny that her 1,000th career match is this Wednesday against Mina Shirakawa, a feud that is rekindled from I believe the Tokyo Dome, where she beat
Yep.
her
For the Rev Pro.
the Rev Pro title. And this is for the TBS title. And now you have already heard Mina say, Toni, stay out of my match. I want to win this on my own, which tells me that Toni is going to interfere and accidentally cost Mina the match. This is my prediction. And then in All In, do we get the Mina turns on Toni to side with Mercedes, and that's how Mercedes wins the title? Or is Luther the snake? And is Mercedes Moné gonna pull $1 million man? Now, this is an old reference for folks, but Dusty Rhodes and Ted DiBiase had a feud in WWE in 1990. Dusty Rhodes had a valet named Sapphire, who was the bus driver in Kansas City, and she drove the wrestlers from the hotel to the arena. And I guess Vince or somebody got the idea that she looks like a common woman. Weird. This is not our words, by the way. This is their words. So please don't aggregate this to us. And that they put her with the common man, which was Dusty Rhodes. So Sapphire got over. And then the story became that Sapphire sold out to the $1 million man because she wanted the fur coats and the diamond rings and the money. So Luther is a butler. By trade, he is for hire, for money. Does he turn his back on Toni Storm for Mercedes's money? I don't know if you can do this match any other two ways than Mina's the one who costs Toni, or Luther, or both. And Mercedes kind of starts her money corporation again, and this time there's no Camille. But yeah, her 1,000th match is this Wednesday, and so I'll pass it over to you to give thoughts on her 1,000th match, and also I think it's time for us to reflect on what our favorite Mercedes Moné match is of all the matches we've ever seen with her. So go ahead.
Yeah, on the 1,000th match, I've seen out there is like, oh man, maybe Mercedes will lose, and then she's definitely winning it All In. It would be a travesty if she loses.
Terrible WWE Vince McMahon.
It would be, that's how Vince would book it. So let's not do that. She should win because Toni violates what she promised Mina. You nailed it. That's what should happen. Now, I would be fine if Mercedes doesn't actually win via pinfall and Toni gets real and Mercedes just wins via DQ. I'm fine with Mina not taking a pin here. Kind of the Lyra Bailey Becky thing could happen in this match. If you want to save Mina losing again to Mercedes by DQ, by all means do that. That's fine. 1,000th match. The great thing about being a Mercedes fan is it's impossible to narrow it down to one. I mean, this is the greatest match of all time. I think, shout out to Scott. He started a hashtag Mercedes1000. A lot of fans have responded to that with their favorite moments and matches, and hopefully she clicks onto that hashtag and gets to read on some of the joy she's brought her fans over the years. But I'm gonna have two real quick before I pass it to you. I recall being more nervous for Bayley and Sasha Banks winning the women's tag titles, the inaugural tag titles, during that match than just about any match she's had in her career. I knew she was injured. WWE booking is insane. So when you have a multi-women's match like that, it's way less predictable than some of the other stuff. And with her being injured, we didn't know for sure if she was winning or not. But I felt as a fan that if Bayley and Sasha weren't the initial tag team champions, God, where do you go from here? It was a dark time. So the performance she put on in that match, they were the first entrants. the modified bank statement on Sonya Deville to win it was one of my favorite moments. I mean, I popped out of my, I would say I popped out of my chair for that win, but I was actually pacing in front of the TV, so I was already not sitting. But I like emoted loudly at home, which as great a moments as she has, I'm not usually hooting and hollering watching a match by myself, but I was for that win. And then the other one I tweeted about, I'm really proud of that Mercedes Willow match that she got hurt. And I think the further away from it that we get, I can talk about it in a positive light. That night, she wrestled Stephanie Vacour in a amazing match. She was the most over babyface in all of wrestling that night. She really was. Go back and watch the tape. I mean, I know it wasn't a WWE size crowd, but it was like 3,000 people. And my God, was she over. And it was a homage to the love of women's wrestling. And I felt like that crowd was the closest crowd we've gotten to the original Evolution crowd, where it was like all women's wrestling fans. And it was off of her and that tournament. And the Willow match was on its way to, I really think if they would have gone 25 plus minutes, it would have given this one a scare. And then just the split second thinking to put Willow, the division, the belt, and the crowd first above herself, that when she got hurt, the audible she called to have Willow be the first champion is why I'm a fan of hers. So I'd like to talk about that and celebrate that as she goes into her 1,000th match. She is the greatest women's wrestler of all time in my book, but she's also, from everything you hear from her opponents like Kanji and Mila and Willow, who she is being the biggest star and who she is as a performer is why it's really easy to root for her. And I'm proud to be along for the ride of 900 of the matches. I don't know how many matches she had when I became a fan in 2015, but most of them, you know. So and don't take her for granted, because just at the rate people wrestle now, you know, she ain't getting to 2,000 matches. You just don't wrestle enough. So don't take this woman for granted. She's the greatest, and we are lucky to have been alongside her career.
So before I get to my two moments that stand out to me about her, the two matches, and this is a little bit selfish because I have involvement in both of them in different capacities. So I said this 2 weeks ago. I think she's the most important women's wrestler of all time. And again, who somebody thinks is the best is subjective to what their preference of taste is. If you're a Joshi wrestling fan, you know, you're going to always pick a Minami Toyota, or you might pick Io, you might pick Asuka, you might pick Saray, you might pick, you know, Bull Nakano, whoever. If you're a US women's wrestling fan, you really should pick her, because I don't think there's really a resume for any other American women's wrestler compared to hers. But okay, people love Becky, people love Rhea. When the person on Busted Open said that she's the best women's wrestler alive, I didn't realize how many people thought that was a hot take. And I read the comments and I'm like, wait, you said this? Anyways, so this is about celebrating her. So obviously everybody's going, when it comes to her, for some reason, they always pick the match behind you as first. Okay. I'm not.
Yeah.
Because to me, I think that while she, and I believe this, she's the most important women's wrestler of all time. I think that's the most impactful women's wrestling match of all time. That one behind you.
Yep.
But I can say this, and it might be a hot take to say, but I think that match has been passed as just a pure wrestling match. I actually like the match with her and Hazuki more, and I like the triple threat at Mania more of matches that have happened on American soil. So to me, the two that stick out to me about her career, number one, Los Angeles, California, 2016, October 3rd. I was in Las Vegas celebrating my birthday with my now ex-wife, and we were in Vegas at Planet Hollywood. We were staying there. And I looked at her on a Monday morning and I said, look, if an announcement happens that they're going to main event, I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to LA and I'm going to watch the match. Now, for those of you who don't know, Vegas to LA is a 40-minute flight. It is not,
Yeah.
it is not far. And the LAX airport is close enough to get to the Staples Center by Uber or whatever. So I think around 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, it broke on Twitter, hey, this is going to main event. So I said to her, I said, look, this is my birthday, so I'm gonna use my birthday card here. I want to go to this. And we looked, and Virgin Airlines had an $89 flight. Round trip for each of us was $200 each, on $198 each, to go to Staples Center to see the match. I said, okay, well, let's wait the last minute to buy tickets, because as the show comes closer, the scalpers have to offload inventory, so they're going to sell it for cheap. So an hour before showtime, I got the tickets on the aisle 6 rows back ringside, because somebody was just trying to dump tickets. So the face value on the tickets was like $150, and I think I got them for $80 each, because they were just trying to dump them. So we get in, and it's like, and this was like probably the first time I realized that, hey, this woman, if this company pushes her, could be the biggest star they have of the active workers, because she was a bigger star that night than Reigns. She was a bigger star than Ambrose, Jericho, Rusev. A bunch of people were there. She was like as big a star as anybody. A lot of signs for her, a lot of cheers for her. And to see her and Charlotte be the first 2 women to main event a Monday Night Raw since Trish and Lita in, I think, 06, was really cool for me, because it was 10 years from the time a women's wrestling main evented. And
Yeah.
Oscar De La Hoya was there in the crowd. O'Shea Jackson Jr. was there. A lot of celebrities were there. It was at the Staples Center. And I just love the fact that everybody stayed for that match and everybody was invested. And when the match was over and the cameras cut off the air, people gave both women a standing ovation, including Charlotte. A lot of people cheered for Charlotte because they thought that was like her coming out party as an in-ring performer, because she didn't have the classic match on TV until that match. Maybe the match in Pittsburgh, but that is one for sure. So that is my number one Mercedes Moné 1000 moment of all time, because I spent
you were there.
Yeah, I went. Number 2, and I am legitimately taking credit for this, and I know this for a fact, okay? I went on a Reddit board under a famous wrestling writer's name, and I said, breaking news, Io Sky or Io Shirai is going to be fighting Mercedes this Wednesday on NXT at Great American Bash. I made this up. This was not like me breaking news. Like, I was literally trying to talk this match into existence. Okay. So I put it in a message board under a fake name. It made its way to Twitter, and people started to legitimately believe that it was going to happen. This match was going to happen. So at the time, I had a friend who worked at WWE, and the person messaged me and said, hey, I just want to let you know something. People are talking about this match, like in the booking meetings. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, hey, people are buzzing about this match. Like, people want to see this match. And there's a chance it could actually happen. And I'm like, no way. They can't, no way, right? So that's Saturday now. Randomly, Mercedes cuts a promo with Bailey beside her saying, Io, you say you're the best in the world. Well, I say I'm the best in the world. Well, how about I show up at the Great American Bash this Wednesday and you put your belt on the line, and I prove to you who's the best. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is legitimately going to happen. And so it's a match I've wanted to see for so many years, and always dreamt about it. And the fact that I started a rumor about it, and I have all the receipts to prove it was me, and it actually went into existence. I feel like that's the other moment of her career that I will always remember, because I was part of it in that aspect. But it also was the first time, people forget this, that NXT beat AEW in the ratings on a Wednesday night, because it was the one match that even the AEW hardcores switched over. And the Kenny Omega, so we're talking about Kenny Omega in the main event. Kenny Omega lost like 300,000 viewers, and Mercedes and Io gained like 160 for their match. And the famous rumor is that Cody Rhodes did not want a main event that night because he knew he would lose, and didn't want to say that he was not a draw. So he took himself out of the main event and went in the middle of that show. So he knew Mercedes and Io would outdraw everybody. And so those are my two Mercedes 1000 memories.
Those are some good ones. I remember both of those matches fondly. I think that LA crowd was maybe the hottest crowd that they had through that whole series. And if you think I'm crazy, as great as the Falls Count Anywhere crowd was, Pittsburgh crowd was pretty good. SummerSlam crowd was pretty good, but the LA crowd, beginning of the match to end of the match, there was an electricity about it that they were excited to see the match. Whereas I think some of the other matches, they had to get the crowd into the match. But that LA crowd, I remember buzzing for the whole match. Okay. So final predictions from both of us is Mercedes beats Mina, and it's Toni's fault.
It's some, but yeah, it has to be. I mean, the story's too. Actually, I have a different way I would book this match now. It just hit me while you were talking. Mercedes puts Mina in the bank statement maker. Toni throws in the towel.
That would hurt way more so if she does that to save Mina, and then Mina turns her back on her. That's
so to me, that's how I would do it, because if you're Toni,
emotional damage.
You're like, hey, I love you. I'm trying to save you. But Mina's like, I told you not to save me. That would be my way of doing it.
So here's why I do like that. And then we'll move on to WWE, unless you have a final thought on it too. I think that if Mina is going to turn her back on Toni, it has to turn into a longish term Mina Toni program. Because if Mercedes wins and you want to keep the division fresh, I actually wouldn't burn through 3 or 4 Toni Mercedes matches, right? Like, have Mercedes beat her the one time. And if you can elegantly, unless they're if they don't main event All In, unless they're main eventing a different pay-per-view, they shouldn't actually wrestle again after this match, in my opinion. Would you agree with that? They need to move them on from each other unless it's main eventing All Out.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I agree with you, depending on what the direction of the story is, right? Like if they want to just do this where this is like the best of 7, then I guess this is the start of the feud. To me, I don't know if this feud has those kind of legs.
I don't think with Mercedes having all the belts she has, you can do a best of 7. It's one loss or no loss. You know what I mean? It's she wins or she takes one loss.
I just don't think that these two have enough personal story to do it the way Mariah, because I get everybody's gonna compare this feud to Mariah Toni, and I just don't think you can do that. Mariah was a understudy. Mariah was her lackey. Mariah was like seen as her lover. Then Mariah stabbed her in the back. And Toni's point in that last promo was to end her and destroy her. I think this is different. To me, look, Toni Storm is a made woman. She is a superstar in that company. She is arguably the most popular women's star they've ever had by far. I think it's time to use that star power and make other women on feuds that don't involve like the thing, and we're gonna get to WWE here right now and talk about Rhea Ripley, but like what they're should be doing with Rhea Ripley in WWE, and they kind of sort of did it last night, but kind of didn't go all the way with it. I'd like to see them do it with Toni Storm, where like a feud with Toni Storm is big enough for the woman in AEW, and you don't need the title. Like to me,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna take like Billy Starks, like a Billy Starks feud with Toni Storm, or Sky Blue, or I don't know who else is there. The Dakota Kai comes in, Dakota Kai or King Coda. What was Dakota's indie name?
Evie.
Evie comes
Yeah.
in. They don't need a title. That's what I would do. But speaking of WWE, let's go right to it. It's over my shoulder here. Last afternoon in the United States from Riyadh, the Kingdom of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, we had Night of Champions where 2 belts were defended. But okay. We had Night of Champions, 6 matches, 2 women's matches. We covered the women's matches only. So sorry for all of you waiting for our analysis about Punk Cena. It won't happen here. With 2 women's matches. The first match was Rhea Ripley against Raquel Rodriguez in a street fight. And what we have advocated for with Rhea Ripley, they did, which is Rhea Ripley is in a match that doesn't involve a title. It's a blood feud. She's by far a big enough star to carry it. She's super over in that. I mean, she was over in Saudi Arabia. And I actually liked this match. I thought it was a really well done street fight. Raquel has grown on me in the last couple of months as a worker. She had a good match with Roxanne. She's had some really good tag moments with Liv. I really enjoyed this match. These 2 women beat the crap out of each other. They hit each other very hard. Raquel, as somebody I, by the way, predicted would be Liv's person Liv brings in, I think Raquel is at her best with a Rhea, where she can give the physical punishment like she can take. I really liked this match, but I hated the ending.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so everybody knew Roxanne was going to interfere because Roxanne was already shown on TV the previous night that she was in Saudi Arabia. So we know Roxanne's there. If you're going to have Roxanne help, then Rhea has to lose. Because what you've just told me is that the tag champs, because we assume the other belt's going to go to Roxanne and they're going to carry the belts, and then Liv is going to come back when she's ready to come back. You're telling me the tag champs are losers because Rhea didn't get help. Nobody helped Rhea. Rhea just beat both of them. She literally beat both of them. And I hated it. I wanted Rhea to lose because I thought they were on an arc of a Rhea redemption story. And now it just feels like, well, she's Rhea. And so I got this on X. So when I tweeted that I did not like the outcome, a Rhea fan DM'd me and said, you want to keep seeing her lose. She lost to Io already in WrestleMania. Okay, she lost to Io and Bianca, but she didn't get pinned. And she's never beaten Io, so there's a story there. So to me, she needs to start to lose to come back up. So when she finally beats Io, it's the ultimate redemption story because Io has been her nemesis. Yeah. Instead, now what this tells me is she's just going to be thrown back into the title picture. So I didn't like it.
Yeah. I think Raquel's done some really good work the last 2 weeks. I've generally not been super compelled. I think they brought her back weak. And again, it goes to Rhea's booking. Raquel should be able to beat Rhea by herself. I'm not saying she should beat Rhea by herself. Bear with me. Raquel, if you're going to have a street fight, you're trying to say that Raquel is a big enough threat to Rhea that she could win the match by herself. Roxanne Perez is one of the best young wrestlers in the world, maybe the best young wrestler in the world. She should be able to beat Rhea by herself. It's just like the Damage Control booking with Bianca. Bayley should be able to beat Bianca. Io should be able to beat Bianca. Kairi should be able to beat Bianca. Asuka should be able to beat Bianca. And together, they can't beat Bianca cheating. I hate it. I hated that. I hate this. If Rhea is going to win, and I know you have to have Raquel, or I know you have to have Roxanne interfere for that story, but this is why people get sick of Rhea's booking, because they look like nerds now. You know what I mean? Like the two of them, they can cheat, they could use weapons, they could be as underhanded as they want. Doesn't matter, can still beat Rhea. It doesn't advance the makes the tag champs look not good, like you said. Makes the division overall look beneath Rhea. And I don't think that does her. Listen, I'm not saying people are going to show up to Raw on Monday and boo her because she won. But long-term investment, it kind of undermines it. We saw that with Bianca getting booed recently. You'd be crazy if you don't think some of that stems back to her smushing Damage Control over and over and over again. She could have taken a loss or two in there and actually would have been better for her character. And
he did take one loss at SummerSlam when Alexa got injured and Asuka got injured, and it was just Bianca in a handicap match against the three, and it took the three of them to beat her, which is insane when you think about it.
But a lot of the other matches where it was one-on-one and people were cheating, because that was a 3-on-3 match and she lost her teammates. She had one-on-one matches where they were cheating and just looked like dweebs. Similar thing here. And if you didn't want Rhea to lose, then I get it. We said to book her like The Undertaker. They booked her like The Undertaker. So maybe we're being wrong.
The Undertaker, no, but The Undertaker lost those type of matches. He's lost casket matches when the Ortons teamed up on him.
Right.
And Yokozuna had the whole roster help him. Like, here's what it also does that people aren't thinking about. So now if Roxanne fights Io, how does Roxanne have a chance? Because Io has never lost to Rhea. And if Roxanne and Raquel can't beat Rhea, then they certainly shouldn't be able to beat Io, right? So, like, to me, what you've done is you've undermined, like, look, it's a very babyface heavy roster. On the Raw side, you have Io, who hardly loses. She also hardly wrestles. Rhea, who hardly loses, and Stephanie Bakor, who hardly loses. At some point, you have to build heels who can beat them. Because unless they're going to end up fighting each other, they're going to run through everybody. So you need me to think there's a strong heel that can take them out.
Actually, and you just said it, there isn't a heel worth their damn on either roster right now. In the main event scene, the best heel that you would think could beat anyone is Becky.
Oh, well, yes, Becky's there. What about Naomi?
No, but Naomi, we're on week 3 of her cashing in at the wrong time. And heels with the briefcase don't need to be booked strong. You've said that over and over. They could take a lot of losses because they're always a threat. But they don't have a single heel on either roster that in a one-on-one match you think they could beat anyone except for Becky. If Becky was in the ring across from anyone, you're like, okay, she might win this match. Every other heel on the roster, especially with Asuka losing yesterday, is she a heel? I guess she is. They're an underdog. Every heel on the roster is an underdog except for Becky. You had Nia in this good spot where she could beat anyone, but they've had Tiffany pulverize her into dust at this point. I don't think Nia needs to wrestle for the belt for a couple years.
Yeah. We'll get
she went the Meechin route of how many times can I lose so that you know I'm not winning this belt again.
So I think that they're listening to us about Rhea, but they're not they're hearing us about Rhea, but they're not
They're
listening.
not listening.
They're hearing and they're doing some good elements, but they're not listening. Okay, so we're gonna cover this really quick. So the second women's match on Night of Champions was for all the marbles, as they say, Queen of the Ring, Jade Cargill versus Asuka. Winner fights their brand champion at SummerSlam.
Yep.
Jade won
She
in
did.
a very not memorable match. And quite honestly, Asuka looks, like I said, since her return, Asuka has looked fantastic. She's looked very crisp, especially coming off the injury she came off of at her, what they say, advanced age. But like, she's just
Light on her feet. She looked good.
she looks great. And look, I'm not gonna sit here and continue to criticize somebody. I mean, you can go on X to get that critique, but Jade winning is very, very predictable because I know now what is going to happen, and it leads to the SmackDown match, which is Jade and Tiffany are going to fight at SummerSlam. Jade is going to beat her, and Naomi is cashing in right away, and that's what's going to happen. And I think it's a mistake for Jade to even get the belt for 2 seconds. Now, it's a good story because Naomi's like, hey, I stuck it to you when I have cost you belt twice now.
Did she maybe do the set thing though, where she never gets it?
She gets the three. Well, she gets the 3-way. Yeah, you can do that.
Because that's her first title run, so maybe she does the 3-way.
But that's obviously the story here. You know, Naomi is going to cash in on Jade or Tiffany or maybe both, win the title. But Jade and Asuka was just not a memorable match. I mean, it was 8 minutes, and Asuka got offense for 7 minutes, and Jade won at the end with her jaded. And I mean, it was a match, and that's all I can say about it.
So, plug for our fantasy league bi-weekly episodes, which we will have an update on this week. I predicted Jade would win Queen of the Ring as I drafted her to my team because she was going to win Queen of the Ring. So I did call this. I thought Asuka looked great. I think Asuka, Becky, and Bayley, something has clicked with them that I don't know if they're doing more footwork related workouts for this kind of agility workouts. It really actually looks like all three of them use their time off to get lighter on their feet and more agile with their footwork. And if you are a fan who really cares about ring work and what goes into that, and we certainly are, there is a noticeable difference between the way Bayley is moving compared to when she even last year when she was champion. There's a noticeable, I'll say Becky really, since she came back from having the baby, that there's a change to her game that definitely made her more kind of athletic, or at least agile on her feet. And Asuka, more noticeably actually than the other two, coming off this injury, looked much crisper than she did for maybe the last 2-3 years before she got hurt. And if you think I'm being overly critical, go and watch her matches with Rhea. She was a little bit more plodding, and she looks great. I'm not. This is a compliment. She looks fantastic. I mean, with the face makeup and stuff, and age is just a number. You if you didn't know anything about this woman, you would have watched her wrestle yesterday and be like, okay, she's in her 20s, even late 20s, maybe. You know, she looked great, which is fantastic for all of us. She's a GOAT. If she ain't on Mount Rushmore, she was in the original plans. You know what I'm saying? Like she's right there, and I'm so happy to have her back. Jade, the match with Tiffany was better than this match.
Yes.
And the more accolades, the bigger spots Jade's put in, she's gonna have to have better matches. And I'm not here to pile on. I don't think it was as bad as some people made it out to be on Twitter, but it wasn't good either, right? And okay, SummerSlam versus Tiffany. How many singles matches are going to be on the SummerSlam card? Women.
Okay, so here's my prediction. I'm gonna go Io Asuka is one.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna go Becky Bailey. Or no. I'm gonna go, yeah, maybe Becky Bailey.
Might be a triple threat. We'll call it singles though.
Yeah, okay. So Becky, I'm gonna
Doesn't
go
have to be one-on-one, but singles,
well, remember, SummerSlam is 2 nights.
Yeah. So maybe 4 at the most, right? We're lucky if we get 4.
So clearly
Singles.
Liv was heavily in these plans. She's gone. I'm gonna go Io Asuka. I'm gonna go Tiffany Jade. I'm gonna go Becky Bailey. And my 4th women's singles match, if there is one, which I don't think there will be. I think that'll be it. Actually, sorry. I have another one. I'm gonna go Giulia versus either Alexa Bliss or Charlotte.
Yeah, I think Giulia is the first U.S. women's champion that has a good shot to be on PLEs.
Yes,
and that's nothing against.
bosses.
Correct, and I'm not trying to crap on Chelsea and Zelina. It's the women's champions aren't even the top champions aren't even getting on PLEs. But I think that they're pushing Giulia. So we may get 4. You may get like an all-star tag type of deal. I could see Raquel, Roxanne versus Stephanie, Rhea to get them on the obviously Rhea will be on the card. I think obviously Stephanie will be on the card. I think they'll be.
I have this dream scenario that it's going to be Raquel and Roxanne versus. I think they were originally going to do Liv Raquel against the Bellas. I actually now think Stephanie Vacour and Rhea are teaming up against Raquel and Roxanne. I don't know why I think this.
And that'll be the 4th match, but it won't be singles, right? So singles, you're out there one-on-one. And the more of these spots Jade's put in, and let's say Charlotte doesn't have a singles match. Stephanie doesn't have a singles match. Rhea doesn't have a singles match. Liv wasn't going to have a singles match. Roxanne is not going to have a singles match. She's got to have good matches. And they've got to find a way. And her and Tiffany had a really good match before, so they could have a good match. So instead of being negative about it, I'm going to say they've got to figure out a way that if they want to get her. So the critiques, whether you think they are fair or not, the more singles matches she's in on a big stage, on a PLE, with a belt attached to it, especially, the critiques, fair or not, are only going to get louder. And I would love to see her shut up some of the critiques, but it will be loud when you don't have a good match with someone like Asuka. Again, her and Tiffany had a very good match before that I enjoyed a lot. Listen, there's a moment in this match where she counters like what's the hold where the stretch hold, like the El Mystico into the octopus. I forget the name of the hold, but anyway, Asuka, she counters one of Asuka's moves into a sidewalk slam, and it's actually really, really smooth. And you see a moment there where you're like, oh, that's that power game.
You mean when Asuka was going for like the tilt-a-whirl?
Tilt-a-whirl.
Yeah, Hurricanrana type of thing, and then.
But then she turned it into, what's that hold with the stretch?
Oh, the Black Widow.
Yeah. So, and then she turned it into a sidewalk slam, and you're like, it's a glimpse of like what could be with the power. She's obviously a very powerful woman. She's a very athletic woman. It's about the transitions, the pinning combinations. Like there's just work to be done there. You'd be insane to think that she's incapable because of her athleticism and power. She has also been trained by some of the best people on the planet, and we just need to see it come together in the ring. It's a very difficult job.
Mhm.
Wrestling is hard.
Very hard.
And wrestling in front of these crowds and getting everything perfect is hard. The men mess up a lot as well. But just saying, our feedback on it is they're obviously pushing her. She won Queen of the Ring. She's getting a single SummerSlam match. I'd love to see her deliver a great match and shut everyone up. That's what I hope for.
The other thing I want to say in her defense is this crowd was very anti-Jade. And she's wrestling this match kind of like the pseudo babyface, and they didn't react to anything she did. And they did not like her. They booed her when she picked up the microphone. She's talking about overcoming obstacles, and she's just getting booed. And
Right.
this crowd was a very pro. I guess I'm going to say the Joshi women, because let's, while we wrap this up, let's go to SmackDown. This was a crowd that was not into Jade, Naomi, or Zelina. And this was a crowd that was very into Giulia, Asuka, Rhea, and Tiffany. So people who listen to our podcast can figure out the commonalities between the women that they didn't like and the women that they did like, and you can put the two together. And as somebody who knows a little bit about that part of the world, it's obvious what it is. But let's go to SmackDown. So in SmackDown, we have two women's matches. The first one was for the US women's title, Zelina Vega defending her title against Giulia. And both of us last week said, look, Giulia's winning the title. This one's easy. It's obvious she's winning the title. She is a Triple H girl. He has always pushed her. He will always push her. And I actually thought this might have been Zelina Vega's best match ever, quite honestly. I actually liked this match. I thought it was good. I thought they worked well off of each other. Giulia was clearly the heel in how she was working the match, but she was clearly the baby face by the crowd. They popped very big for her. She won the match, got the fireworks and everything. And I kind of be honest here, I wish they didn't do that for heels winning the title. Like, this is a bad person. You're celebrating what exactly? But okay, it's Saudi Arabia. They wanted to see the fireworks. Cool. I'm just happy that somebody in my stable won the title. I mean, the US title comes home. I look for a very long, fruitful reign from Giulia. And that was it for that match. Like, I thought it was a good match, and Giulia winning is the right decision.
I'll give props to Giulia. People want to focus on the negative, that top rope superplex. Oh man, it almost went bad. You know what? She's talented, and it didn't. Her foot slipped and she saved it, but it looked like it could have been bad, and it actually turned into a great move. But I'll actually give credit, and instead of calling that an almost bad, that's how a great wrestler recovers and makes sure something doesn't go bad. No, I mean, Giulia brings the best pedigree thus far to that belt. I thought Chelsea Green was a great champion. But they don't exactly present Chelsea as a world beater, right? She's a entertainment wrestler at this point in her career, even though we know from her days in the Indies in Japan she can go, and we know from WWE she wrestles good matches, but she's more of a chicken heel than someone who's going to beat someone up. Giulia's the first like destroyer to hold this belt, and it'll be interesting to see how they book it. SmackDown's going back down to 2 hours. And you've advocated for a while that they need more stooges on the roster. I look forward to Giulia. I would do the local talent thing, and I would have Giulia murking people in 2 minutes. Because you don't want 2-minute matches against your rostered women, because it makes you feel like the title defenses aren't getting time. Giulia is the type of champion that they should have local talent get just stomped and just have her look like a badass.
I hate SmackDown going to 2 hours.
I do too.
I think they're going to cut a lot of the women's stuff.
Me
I
too.
actually really enjoyed SmackDown on 3 hours. I thought the women got a lot of time. They got to tell a lot of good stories. They got to have a lot of good matches. But somebody whose time will not be cut on SmackDown, even at 2 hours, is Tiffany Stratton, who this is an interesting. So first off, I thought her and Nia had a really good last women standing match. These two obviously are best friends outside of the ring. You know, there's why they would put this video up. They worked out together with Sheamus, and I'm like, you guys are feuding, but you're working out together. Okay, I guess kayfabe is really dead. Tiffany and Nia just have really good chemistry with each other because they beat the crap out of each other. Like, they're really physical with each other. Tiffany has had the belt since January 1st. It is going on July. She has not lost at all. She hasn't been pinned. She hasn't been DQ'd against. If PWI did January to the end of the year, Tiffany has a case to be number one, but because, you know, she had September to December where I think she lost every match because she was the briefcase holder, she has no case. But
is she number one for beating the same 3 or 4 people though?
Yeah, well, okay, so you know what? You said this last week, and I went back and I researched it. So these are the women she's beaten since she won the title: Naomi, Bailey, Nia, Charlotte, Roxanne, and there's somebody else.
She beat Michin or Chelsea.
Chelsea. That's not bad. I mean, you beat Charlotte Flair, Roxanne, Bailey, Naomi, Bailey, Charlotte are going to the Hall of Fame.
It's pretty good.
That's a pretty good list, right?
That sounds like a really good resume for the number 2 PWI wrestler in the world, to be honest.
but is okay. So if you were to just look at opponents, I think beating that roster of opponents is, in my opinion, better than beating. Who has Mercedes beat since January 1st? If we're doing this.
Okay, since January 1st. She's beat Mina Shirakawa.
Yeah.
She has beat Kanji. She's beat Jamie Hayter.
Yeah.
She's beat Athena.
Yeah.
She's beat Giulia Hart.
Yeah.
She's beat Momo Watanabe.
Yeah.
She's beat La Catalina.
Yeah.
She's beat Zeusis.
Okay. That should be a take. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
She's beat Billy Starks.
Is it this year or was that last year?
That was this year. That was this year.
That's 9. Yeah.
She's beaten Yuka. I was at that match in January.
That's 10. That's it.
She wins. I mean, that's a good list.
So is that better than Charlotte, Naomi, Bailey, Nia, Roxanne?
Yeah, because if you
no, it isn't.
There's more women in their prime there.
Okay, but again, let's look at this. Charlotte is going to the Hall of Fame. Would you agree? Okay.
Yeah.
Bailey?
Hall of Fame.
Roxanne?
Yep.
Naomi?
Oh, well, no, not yet, but I mean, I'd predict it. Yeah.
Roxanne?
Naomi, yes. Roxanne, no.
Okay.
Not yet.
Nia? Yeah.
Sure.
Like, so in terms of name recognition, Tiffany's beat a pretty good roster.
Well, she's in WWE though, but I'm looking at it from the point of view of the respect we have for Japanese women's wrestling. Momo, that's a fastball.
Yeah,
okay.
Momo's good.
Momo's great.
The second was the Momo. Oh yeah, it was. It was in LA, right? It was the okay.
Yeah. Billy Starks matches up with Roxanne as far as young, up and coming, could be a future Hall of Famer. Billy Starks is the second best young women's wrestler.
She's not better than Roxanne, though.
I said she's the second best. She's number 2 on that list.
I mean, there's Roxanne is Roxanne. Roxanne is a different level. But Bailey, right? Like Bailey, Charlotte, Naomi. That's a pretty
match quality though. Is like a 3-time lap.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so again, what is this list on? Is this on who they beat or is it on match quality? If it's on match quality,
It's who they beat and it's accolades. And so the amount of belts in different places she's winning is ultimately what wins it, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah. So I think, but again, when people have criticized the Tiffany Stratton run,
none of those wins are on pay-per-view except for the Charlotte one. That also hurts. Not a single one except the Charlotte one.
That's fair. But that one's at WrestleMania.
So what?
She beat Miss WrestleMania, as they call her. Clean.
Mercedes has a title win in the Tokyo Dome, has a title win in Arena Mexico.
Yeah.
Revolution, almost all those were on pay-per-views. Double or Nothing's the second biggest pay-per-view in AEW. She won opening that card. So
I think, yeah, to me, I didn't realize Tiffany beat so many people. That's actually what was more shocking.
Because it wasn't on PLE.
Because it feels like she fights Nia every week.
I know.
And so, like, to me, I was like, wait, she's actually...
That Bailey win is probably the best win because that was a really good match. I just wish it was on a PLE.
She also... Okay, what happened with her versus Jade? Did she win that match?
I think it was a DQ.
Okay.
Naomi caused the DQ. I don't know if she won or not, but Naomi caused the DQ.
The thing that I like about the Mercedes' matches have bhave much better than the Tiffany matches, right? So I'm not even comparing match quality because that's kind of a wipeout. I am a huge Tiffany fan, but her best matches have actually probably been the matches with Nia, quite honestly. Like, I think the best matches she's had in this run have been with Nia. And I would not put Nia at the level of performer as Momo. Or here's the thing. Here's the deciding factor for me in this comparison. Okay. And it's one match. It's actually Mercedes Jamie Hayter. To me, I have that as the third best women's match this year, or second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have Tiffany anywhere near a top 10 for women's matches this year. Like, she's not sniffing anything in the top 10. So for me, that's the deciding factor. But back to Tiffany, go ahead.
Real quick, the ones I missed. Mercedes has also beaten Indy Hartwell, Harley Cameron, and Reina Isis, and Lexa Vallo and Mila Schmidt in a triple threat. So.
Yeah, again, if you combine the accolades of the women you mentioned, they might be Bailey in 2016. Like, they have the equal accolades to 1 year of Bailey. But again, to me, Mercedes Jamie Hayter is just eons better than anything Tiffany has done this year. And quite honestly, it's like I said, it's either my second or third best women's match this year. I love that match. And for that alone, I'm going to give Mercedes the nod over Tiffany in this whatever PWI ranking for people who haven't lost this year, because neither have lost. By the way, neither has Io, but Io wrestles twice a year, so she doesn't count.
It's really the Sports Illustrated you're arguing for, because the PWI is wrapped, right? It's September to October.
Unless
you got Hazuki, Chris, plus all the ones I mentioned.
Unless Triple H sends Bill Apter a huge check, I don't see how anybody else but Mercedes can win the PWI. So Tiffany Nia, I love this match. I thought it was really, really good. I don't think it was as good as the one where she kicked the briefcase in Nia's face and busted her nose open. That match was great. This match was very good. Okay, so here's my nitpick of this match. It has nothing to do with Tiffany or Nia. We got to stop making Naomi look like a goof. Like, we just got to stop making her look like a goof. She is carrying the briefcase like Chelsea Green's character should carry the briefcase. Like, comedy act, gets thwarted every time. Naomi comes out there and literally is handing the briefcase to the ref. Tiffany says, hell no, takes the briefcase from her, clocks her, and then use it like, Tiffany look like a superwoman. No, so that is actually my one thing I'm happy about Tiffany's reign. She's an intelligent babyface. She is not but you don't have to make Naomi look like a goof. Naomi has been the cerebral, calculated, nasty person behind the scenes. She tried to murder Jade. She broke into Bianca's house and admitted it in front of Bianca's face and says, hey, I can put you in a wheelchair to sit beside your mom. She runs out and she's looked like a bozo every week trying to cash this thing in, and I hate it.
I think you nailed this. I don't have to extrapolate on it any further. I'll just add real quickly. All of that is to the viewer and the judgment we make. To can you hear me?
Yeah.
That to the viewer. What's worse is she promoted when she won the briefcase, and she said specifically, I'm not cashing in anytime soon. I'm going to cash in at the perfect time, and I'm going to make your life a living hell because you'll never know, and I'm going to hold it over your head. And then what does she do? She has 3 bozo failed cash-ins within a month of saying that. It's like a goofy mad scientist instead of someone who's a true threat. So yeah, I don't love it. I don't know if they're just forcing it because of the Night of Champions event that they want to have and all that. But yeah, I didn't love it either. I did like the match though.
I thought that her match, her failed cash-ins have done nothing for me. I would prefer, honestly, Naomi plays her music, comes out, and psychs everybody out. It's like, nah, I'm not doing it today. Her whole character is she's cerebral. She's proceed with caution. So she should fake cash in a bunch of times and never actually run to the ring. And almost like play with Tiffany's brain. Like she's in Tiffany's head.
What she said she was going to do.
She's in Jade's head. She honestly, like, I would love to see her because even Io lives backstage on Raw. Like she has a house and she pays rent backstage at Raw because that's what they do with Io. I'd like to see Naomi show up on Raw and be like, Io, hey, what's up? Knock, knock. Like, that's what I want to see with this character. And I understand they want to make Tiffany look, when Tiffany loses the belt, because she's going to lose, it's going to be to the cash in. This is what's going to end up happening. She's going to be like on one arm crawling, and then Naomi's going to cash in, and it's going to be Tiffany, she's Superwoman, but it took like 16 chair shots or whatever to beat her, because they're clearly positioning Tiffany as this like almost unbeatable force. But we don't see it that way because she fights the same person every week. But if you, like I said, I went back and I reviewed it. I'm like, she hasn't lost in a damn long.
She's been been for a first title reign. It's a hell of a
it's a good title reign that I think we're undervaluing because it feels like she's fought, and to your point, she's not on PLEs and she's fought Nia a bunch of times. But yeah,
that's and you know, as we wrap up, I think next week, top of my mind, besides the fact that we'll be getting ready for All In, little bit of a teaser for next week, unless something major happens. Yeah, we're gonna get Evolution. By the way, it's 2 weeks away. We've got 1 match announced, so that's bogus. That's lame. And the women, and we're not gonna count Evolution. The women have not defended their title on PLE on either Raw or SmackDown at all since October, except for WrestleMania. And that's why maybe Tiffany's reign isn't seen as good as it actually is on paper. And I think probably next week is the week to start talking about that because, yeah, we're going to get some title defenses on Evolution, probably on SummerSlam because it's 2 nights, but it shouldn't take a 2-night PLE for these matches, for these titles to be defended. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
So, any closing thoughts?
I am very interested in Toni Mina this week. I'm also very interested in, I'm just going to say it. I think the build to Evolution has been awful.
Terrible.
I don't even know I don't even know what's going to be on the show, like other than an NXT women's title match, which is JC Jane versus Jordan Grace. I don't know who Io's fighting. I don't know who Tiffany is fighting. I don't know who the tag champs are fighting. I don't know what the Intercontinental title match is. I don't know what the US title match is. Now US title just got changed, so maybe it's something different. Maybe the rematch.
The one match we Becky, Bailey, Lyra in some form.
Well,
But
yeah,
everything else,
that looks like it's going to be the direction, but like this
what's
is
the
the
match?
problem. This is the problem when you run so many things beside each other. You know, you do Riyadh and you did the SmackDown, which they essentially treated like a pay-per-view. And then you have you have Saturday night's main event, you have NXT Great American Bash, and you have Evolution in the same weekend. So like, to me, I don't know what Evolution is going to look like. Like, I just don't know, and I'm very disappointed by it. We're 2 weeks away from Evolution. 2 weeks. Yeah. I guess the prevailing thought is Io versus Liv was actually the match last night, not Raquel Rhea. That's a pivot. It was supposed to be Io Liv. And I think the Roxanne interference costing Liv the match was supposed to be the story, not Roxanne helping Raquel lose anyway. But so they're kind of stuck there. But they gotta get something done with Io. If you're gonna go Io Asuka at SummerSlam, fine. But you gotta set that up. You gotta make Asuka get some wins back. I don't know. I'm gonna be excited for Evolution when it actually happens on my screen. But until it gets there, I'm not really that excited. I don't know what I'm getting out of it.
So, besides just the low bar of, hey, it's an all women's pay-per-view and your favorites will be here, they haven't given anyone a reason to buy a ticket. They certainly haven't given anyone a reason to travel to Atlanta to buy a ticket besides just the here, damn, it's a women's pay-per-view. And I don't think anyone should be shocked. They're not doing this because they think they're doing this for all the wrong reasons. And we'll close on that very WWE thing. They're doing this for the wrong reasons. But no, we'll have a lot to talk about next week. Toni, Mercedes, we're at an anything can happen stage of this. There's many routes they could go, so it's been well built at this point, because ultimately when we get to All In, I have no idea who's winning. I know who should win, and I feel strongly about it, but they've actually done a good enough job that I'm like, oh, Toni could win. All right. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Go ahead.
Before we wrap up, okay, so I wanna thank everybody. Our overall subscription base has improved over the past couple of weeks. We have gained new subscriptions on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Samsung, Amazon, etc. Our last week's episode was one of our better episodes of all time in terms of streaming. So thank you so much for your continued support. Please look at the link on the YouTube channel. We have very fancy merchandise that says that, the balance sheet. You can now get it in multiple colors. You have a hat. Please go and support us. The other way to support us is hit that subscribe button on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Apple Podcasts. Sorry, that helps us. But again, thank you so much for the 5-star reviews. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We love doing this for you guys, and we want to continue to grow. So thank you so much. And until then, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.